Okay, I'm starting to figure out some things to do with clump, and clump is really important if you want to make, Jewish afros, regular afros, or almost any essential type of hair. And there are a number of sort of default settings in Maya that make it confusing, and I've kind of busted through those. So here we go. We've got a scalp. We're going to say generate interactive groom splines, and here I'm going to say head hair. And don't change these settings. It tends to crash or act weird. Okay, so we've got head hair. And we're just going to use some really simple things, okay? The first thing we want to do is we want to make our hair longer, because if you use clump and you want tight curls and all of that, as most black people will tell you, they've got to grow their hair a lot longer to make it seem like it's nearly the same length. So let's go to our length tool, and we're going to increment it by 2 instead of negative, and we're going to keep it at 100, and I'm actually going to grow my brush here a little bit. So hold down B and scroll to the right, and you can see your brush gets bigger. And now we're just going to symmetry off. Why not put symmetry on? And we're just going to go over here, and we're going to, whoa, that's insane. So let's see, where's my tool? Size, strength, increment by 0.4. Okay, let's see. Whoa, that's still insane. 0.07. Here we go. Just want to have some control there. Okay, that looks pretty good. And we need it pretty long. Okay, so having some hair to work with is essential. You can go in and tighten that up if you want. But that'll be good enough for now. And the other thing that's essential for curly hair, let's make it a little longer, is CVs. I don't even know what the hell they stand for, but you go down here, and this is basically the amount of detail and points that are on the hair. So we go down to attribute, CV count at 5. So CV count at 5 is way too low for hair that needs to be curly. We're going to shoot this up enormously. We're going to go and start at 55. Okay, now this is going to slow down your computer a bit, but there's just no other way to do it. Hey, 55. Oh God, is it doing this thing again? It's doing this thing again. There is a way around this where you got to insert. Oh, I hate this. Where the hell is it? Let's see if I can find it. I took a note of it. Let's see, snips. Let's see, solution. CV count won't change, xgen hair. Great. So I just ran into this. Set attribute description base count CV count to 12. Okay, so sometimes this is a bug in Maya. You've just got to work your way around this. I'm going to put this where I can see it, I guess, down here. And then I'm going to bring Maya up and get to where I can see that. Okay, and we've got to insert that line into a mel code here. So I'm going to type that line, make sure it's accurate. Attribute description. Oh, wait, this is, I think we've got to do this for the name here. So see up here, the name is head hair. So we're going to do that. Head hair. Oh, and we've got to do it for base. So head hair underscore base. This is where we've clicked for the CV count to change. So that's the name that's got to go here. CV count, head hair underscore base. This seems technical, but it's really not that hard. It's a bug. I haven't had it happen in a few days, but it's good that it's happened now. And we want to set it to 55. Okay, so you just type that in there. This is a mel line, see mel code, and it goes, and now it's 55, and we can say rebuild. Okay, and that doesn't change the look at all, but it does change how many times they can bend and curl. Okay, so now we're ready to start the action. So first thing we want is our width down to hair, human head hair, 0.15. It's slightly big actually, but we want to be able to see it. I like to click on head hair, right click over here, assign new material, because I like to use the Arnold shader. Go down to the Arnold shader, AI standard hair, and you can see now it's made it black hair, and that appears here, and you can you know, go find it. Here it is right here. We'll call this video hair. Hey, I'm just tucking over there. Call it video hair. Okay, and this is where you can change the color. So that makes it gray. This makes it redder, right? You get red hair. This is sort of brownish. Okay, we're going to leave it kind of dark so we can see it. This is randomized, so you get some gray hairs in there, and you know, or lighter hairs. And we're going to play with this later because there's some cool things you can do with that. But that's the Arnold hair shader. Okay, so now I've got this hair. The other thing I'm going to want is a little more hair. You don't have to go up too high at first, but in order to do clumping, we're going to need more hair. So let's go to 9. Okay, and that takes a second. So now I've got all this hair. Okay, and now's where the fun starts. We go to head hair, we say add modifier, and we say clump. Okay, and this is where I was so lost. I was always stuck with these big balls, right? And the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make the clump sizes smaller into smaller groups. Okay, and that is down here. Clump points, density. Is that it? Yeah, you see how it just became a smaller group? You're going to go up to do sort of good African hair. You're going to be up at 22 maybe, right? And all my units are actual size. So there we go with that. And now we're going to go down to curl. First thing you got to do is kind of turn all the curl up. So there's curl at the roots, and this is curl at the tips. Okay, and then you've got to go turn curl on. Okay, now you see the hair is curling into itself, sort of like making little, look almost like Christmas trees. Okay, and the ability to coil around itself is from the CV. Okay, so we increase the CV. If you turn that CV down to 5, these things are going to just look horrible. And basically what's happening here is the hair in the center goes up straight and is longer as a result than the hair that's curled. I don't know if preserve length will change that. Let's see if that does anything. Because I really don't like that some hairs come in longer. So let's try preserve length. We still got the sort of the issue where, you know, 1 or 2 hairs is longer because it happens to be in the center. I wish there was a way around that. Okay, clump variance is kind of nice. You see how all of these look uniform? Well, we want to have some bigger and some smaller. And so now you've got maybe this one's bigger and that one's skinnier. Okay. Now this is all looking, you know, kind of a yawner, right? But the clincher comes when you just add noise to this. So now we're going to go in and we're going to add some noise. Okay, and now it just kind of looks okay, but we're going to jack that noise up a little bit. So the magnitude of the noise right now is 1. Maybe we'll go to 2.5. Okay, and what we're running into here, the render might be better, but you see these are the amount of times one hair can bend, and you can see them bending, right, like almost breaking. So we might have to raise our CV count some more. So let's go down to that. Go to the base, see if it actually lets us, and we'll go to 88 and say rebuild. And boy, it's going to think about that. But now you can see it's a little bit more curvy, and that's actually going to render okay. Okay, so I've got this reddish looking hair. I don't really love the color. Let's go back to Arnold. And where's our video hair? We can also get rid of, delete unused nodes. And we want to save occasionally. Save scene. All right, you would also probably set project. Since I'm doing a video and I don't want all the extra files, I won't do it, but hair really demands that you set project. Hold this a second. Save changes, cancel. We're going to save as, file, save scene as, video hair.mb, and we say save as. And remember, whenever you're working with hair, you want to set project into the folder that you're working on. So not in FD, I'm in FD hair. And here's where you would say set project. All right, I'm not going to do it because I'm going to trash this file later. All right, this hair, let's see, maybe some more randomized, maybe a little less red, right? Starts to look a little more natural over here, maybe a little darker. All right, now we're starting to look pretty good. It's kind of hard to tell unless you render it, right? Arnold's made for rendering. And so we've got a fairly respectable looking afro thing. Of course, we need to sculpt it. And I've got these density maps that I've already got. So let's add one because it's going to look a little bit better. I've got a density mask, which I can add right here. So I'm going to click on the file part. You could draw your own. I find it's nice to keep a collection of them. And this is where you click for the file. And you see I've got a density mask. Not the best, actually. That is pretty good. All right, so now that brings the hair back a little bit. Still looks really corny because we haven't combed it. So I like to, when I comb it, to turn things off because you can comb a lot faster. All right, so now we're going to go grab our comb brush right here, and let's see what the strength is on this. Okay, the strength is low. We don't want it too strong. Maybe the size a little bit smaller, and a little bit bigger. We want to do some just general whoosh. That's too strong. Let's knock it down a little bit, and we want to whoosh. Get some of that hair going back. All right, you have to kind of mess with them to get it going back. All right, and there we go. And if you go too far, you can actually pull it back, and sometimes that's helpful to go too far. So see how I've gone too far here? Hold B, shrink your brush down, and go back into that area and just yank it back out. And it actually looks kind of more like regular hair when it finally does pop back up. My strength on this is so low right now, it's not going to do anything. So I'm going to go down here, and now I can kind of pull that out. I need a bigger brush to do that. And you know, hair kind of jumps out straight at first and then starts curving later. Hold my B, make this bigger. Let's push that hair back. All right, you can work on these grooms forever. We're just throwing it about to see what it looks like. And you don't want to make it too flat, like right there. So you can go in and pull it back out, which is cool. That is super cool. I used to panic whenever I knocked it in and undo, but sometimes now when I hit it in too far, it actually works out to be better when I pull it out. All right. Here we go. The side of the brush is actually your good friend, right? Because it's softer, so you can sort of control how much you want to do by how far in you push the brush into the hair. All right, that's pretty good. You could have used the symmetry tool on this, and to get to symmetry, you just hold right, symmetry, object X, and now the brush will work on the same on both sides. We don't want that. Sometimes you got to hit undo twice to undo your hair moves. I'm going to leave that little doo-wop up there and just see how we're looking. All right, so now I'm going to get my arrow again and then click here and here. All right, and so that's his hair. Now this is the big problem when I do all this stuff. I end up with these big things that I usually have to go and trim off manually, and they're kind of a pain in the butt. So how do you manually trim them off? Well, there's a couple different ways. I found my width brush lately hasn't been working. But I would say my first line of attack would be the length brush. So I go to the length brush and I go increment by a -4. So really whack at these. Strength is high. And so now I'll brush right over them and you can see them already starting to become. Now the trouble is sometimes with xgen, especially xgen, it's not very good at the edges. So right where the hair meets the density map, that's where things can get uncontrollable. And sometimes I have to redo my density map just to be a little stronger on the edge because of those hairs. Like these, sometimes you get these hairs that stick straight out and they don't do anything. So you see, even though I'm painting on them right now, nothing's happening. And even if I go get my comb, so let's go back into the comb world, you see they're not there. That's kind of a drag. All right, so those can be a problem. You can go in and find some of them over here. This one's even worse than the one I was working on. It's definitely got a lot more of these. And after the comb is really rough. We could go to our sculpt. Now, what's interesting is the order here matters. So if you have noise before clump and all of that, it matters. So you'll find that if you just move them up or down, different things can happen. So now I move the sculpt up. Okay. And all of a sudden my hair is more controllable. Okay, but it's, yeah, I mean, that was a huge improvement. It basically respected the combing more. And then we can move it up again. And now the sculpt comes before the noise. Boy, I wish I knew this on the last one. You know how nice that is. Totally in control. So the sculpt first, noise, clump, makes a big difference. And so, let's see, we still got a comb tool. Oh, that's my big length tool, right? For chopping stuff off. So let's move our comb down and just see if I can, you know, push, see how you can kind of push the front out a little bit, the way hair really works. This stuff's pushed back like he's a grease ball. Now, we're not done here, but you can see that this is already kind of looking okay. The tricks for getting to look even more natural are coming up. I'm really impressed by how much the sculpt at the top changed things. But let's take a quick render. So to get a render, I'm going to have to add some lights. So I'll go to Arnold, 1, 2 of those, and 1 of these. And then I can go into my CC3 thing, and it'll actually set up the lights for me, which is great. And then I can take the lights off so I don't see them in the background. But now, that should be ready for a render. So Arnold render. If this thing crashes, that'll be the end of the video. Oh, no, I did save. All right. So we're getting some hair. Now, Arnold's hair tends to be kind of bright. All right, so you can go into the hair shader and go to your video hair and do this first tint item here. And just darkening that a little bit, you'll see it knocks down a lot of that shininess right away. So you get to see the hair better. Also, my light's kind of bright. So I'm going to go in the outliner, go to the light, white, and go to the attribute and just knock that down from 3 to say 1.4. And, you know, now I've got all this happening. Okay, now, so we've got, oh, I'm on CPU as well. You want to switch to GPU. System, CPU to GPU. It just renders a ton faster and sort of interactively. So we can kind of see what's going on there now. That's pretty cool. All right, so one thing is, maybe my curls are too wide. Let's go back to the groom editor, go to our clump. Let's go take a look at those curls, right? Right. Oh, I put curl up to 8. We can put curl up to 12. And that should make, I think that makes 12 curls per hair length. So you should get tighter, more curls. So you see that? And if we went up to 18, all right, so you get different looks. This is starting to get a little bit weird, so it's kind of a sweet spot there, maybe around, let's try 13. Okay, that's got some nice things going on. I feel like my hair color tint is just a little bit dark. Let's go back to video hair and go back to that first tint. Yeah, it's a little dark, so let's get some more of that highlight back. You see how I just lightened it up a little bit? It's amazing how sensitive this one is. Maybe what happens? Okay, that's darker. This is lighter. We'll just dial in a bit more reflection there. So the other thing you can do now is you can play with your noise, okay, and you'll get a totally different effect. So let's go from noise magnitude of 2 to noise magnitude of 4. Okay, and it starts to mush everything together. You get less defined lines, all right? So that's one thing you can do. We could lower the noise, right? We could go make the noise 1.1 and see what happens. And you should see more tight lines, right? So we've got, this is just like looking a little unnatural. So, I don't know, let's try 2.8. So noise definitely breaks things up a little bit, makes it seem a little more natural. Now, what we're going to do is we're also going to add another clump. All right. So this here is all clumped to make those lines. Now we're going to mess it up a little bit by adding a new clump. Okay, that's going to have a different clump density. So we can see that this one's pretty crazy right now and pretty strong. We don't want that. So we're going to go to this clump modifier. Make sure we press the arrow over here because you see that circle that's slowing things up. We don't need our render window open right now. And our second clump, well, first thing we might want to do is just take it down a bit, right? So this clump is strong. And we can also play with it here. So this kind of turns off the clump at the ends. All right, you see that? So this turns off the clumping at the roots. Okay, so at this point we should, if we turn, this is basically turning the whole clump off. It should look somewhat like it did before. Let's see, we can turn this clump off. Well, it's definitely doing something. And so you can play around with that new clump. And this clump density is going to matter, right? Let's make this 6, for example. And this is where you get all the sort of natural things by combining clumps and moving them around a bit. So, and each person is going to, you see that? We're getting a new look in there as I sort of tighten the roots. Okay? And then we can have curl inside of this one too. So we'll have curls inside of curls sort of thing, which is kind of natural. So let's turn our curls up. Maybe the whole length of the hair, maybe 3. Right, so 3 bigger curls. And then we've kind of got to turn that on. Look at that. Okay, and we're running into sort of that same problem, and I think it might have to do with this. We have to put our clump underneath the sculpt. There we go. I love that trick. I'm getting a lot of peculiar straight lines, which is very weird. I think that, I don't know what that is actually. It's it's almost like the clump needs its own CV number, right? And it definitely looks like it's this clump. That's peculiar. I don't know how to deal with it. Again, I've learned almost all my tricks. This might be it. Map subdivision level, radius variance. Density mass, seed, preserved length, clump variance, clump scale. Let's turn that up. Not doing anything. So this clump has introduced these hard, really jagged lines. Let's put that clump below. Again, under noise. All right, so those positions matter so much. Let's go one further. So everything you do with that order really matters. It loses control or gains control. Now, I don't really see the effect. Well, we can by just turning it off. Yeah, it's done kind of a new thing. It's changed it up a little bit. We can turn that up, and we could, you know, the lower this is, believe it or not, the more clump you get. That's one of the things I learned today. I was like messing that up for months. So there's a look. Okay. Now the other cool thing that I just learned, so that's looking pretty good actually. There's something kind of natural about it. I think we need to increase our clump density on the first clump. Let's try that. So density is 22. Let's go to 33. So when you get fewer of these chunks, let's increase our clump density here. Oh, and there's another trick I've got to do. Let's turn this to 8. Okay, so I'm getting more, and you can see each thing really does affect. But we want, you know how hair kind of gets pulled from the skin and then goes up? I want to try and figure that out. I think we basically want to turn clump off right at the very bottom. So you can open this up, and I think clump off is this way. And so it should make the bottom parts wider. So remember, this is the root and this is the tip. And let me just try this. All right, we've got 2 clumps on there, so it's kind of hard to really know what effect I'm doing. And you see, even here with 88 on CV, we're running into problems because this hair turns so many times. Let's turn off this clump. And yeah, we're not seeing as much defined stuff right at the root, right? I think that's what we're doing here. So if I went all the way, we'll see them break into, you can see now they're broken into little clumps. But this removes it at the root, but doesn't change anything at the top. This here would remove it all the way up, so we get very little clumping. Okay, so you can see how that works. So higher is less clumping on the clump scale. Very weird. So we're going to have it clump a bit earlier. And then we might try and do the same thing on the second clump. Okay, so here we are on the second clump. Let's see if we can make the roots a little bit more like the hair's growing all over the place. There we go. So now hair's coming from all over the place but forming into clumps later on. All right, and that's more natural. Now again, a lot of this is going to be controlled by width and density and taper. So let's just go play with that real quick. Okay, here's the same thing. Here's the width of the hair. Okay, so this is saying the hair's all the same thickness the whole way. Well, we know that's not true. Hair gets thinner as it gets toward the top. Okay, and it gets a lot thinner. And then, in terms of looks, I think it looks more realistic somehow if it looks like it's thinner at the base, like it's almost coming out of the skin somehow. And so this is kind of a standard trick that we do there. And then we've got to make sure we have enough density. Okay, so head hair, this gives us the width, this gives us the base, and our density is pretty low. You can go to 18 or 22. This is going to be calculated like crazy, but we'll go to 14 and you'll see that the density changes it a lot. All right, and now I'm struggling again with this craziness. Is that this one clump or both clumps? Yeah, switching the density is a nightmare. I might have to just resculpt. What happens if I turn off my sculpt altogether? Oh, that is so freaky. Look at that. That is perfect MLK here, isn't it? Oh, that is awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just create a new sculpt layer, and I'm going to call this one garbage one. I'm going to just assume it's bad. And we're going to click here and we're going to just sculpt on this new sculpt layer. Remember, one of the first things I wanted to do was take my xgen and play with the length. All right, and we want to turn that up. Right now it's really low, so that would just cut his hair. So let me right click just to show you symmetry off, and whoosh. Works, pretty cool. Hit undo twice sometimes. I don't know why. Undo 3 times. Okay. But we want to increase it by 0.5. Strength 99. And I do want symmetry here. So right click, symmetry, object X. And I'm going to pull back and I'm just going to grow his hair. Or I thought I was going to grow his hair. Didn't do a thing. Why am I? This is weird. Oh, somehow my edit, I must have hit undo. Okay, so that's always a problem. When you think things aren't working, make sure you got, so this layer is off, but that's the one I'm trying to edit on. It's my old garbage one. Oh, because I undid too much garbage. And this is my new one. But I've got to turn that on to be able to edit on it. So I click over here. So now, well, let's see, symmetry, object X, where's the other side? Okay, and I'm going to back out a little bit. And now, ooh. All right, but I'm getting these, I hate these random ones that come out of nowhere. It sometimes feels kind of natural, but they're real problematic. So they're kind of bugs in xgen. And, you know, I guess there might be another way to do this. Let's turn our garbage one off. I mean, our new one off. Let's try scale. Okay, so let's put scale all the way up here. Well, I guess I got to use this. Move scale up. Scale. Scale. And we're going to take our scale, make sure we've got our arrow, attribute, and I'm going to make it 8. That almost seems to be better. Look at that crazy afro, folks. All right, we can make that 6. All right, and again, if I want to comb it, I definitely want to turn off some of these things like noise and clump, because it's just going to be a lot easier on the computer. And then I can comb. Why isn't it combing? Why isn't it combing? Let's see our tool settings. Strength is low. I don't know why it's not combing. That, my guess, would be you just got to start over with this file. So let's save. Let's save it as video 2. And we're just going to open the same file we just closed. This is a common thing with xgen. I've had this happen many times. Let's see if that's the reason why this isn't acting here. But so just go open the very same thing that I just saved. And it opens up. You've got to reopen this. You've got to go to your sculpt to make sure you're, oh, you see my new is at 0? Oh, look at that. Okay, crazy. I'm going to get rid of the new one too. Access. Oh, delete. Okay. Oh, all right. And I'm going to add a new sculpt layer. Say edit. And I'm going to get my comb, and I'm going to comb that. Okay, so it's all combing like normal now. It's kind of over combing. All right, and then I might go backwards. This is only on strength 20. That was pretty massive work being done there. Then I might just soften all those combs up, right? You can get good pompadours this way. You know, pull up the back of his hair, probably on the sides, don't let too close. But again, overdoing it is sometimes okay, because you can get these better pompadourish curves. Okay, that I'm gonna have to go down here. Boy, we're having fun. Now he definitely looks like a white guy, huh? Alright, let's see. Here. Boy, I messed that up. I don't like what I just did, so I'm going to do it a couple times. I don't like that little bump I put at the front. Come on, one more. There we go. And let's see. We could even take, like, maybe we've overcombed, so we can now, because we've got this layer, we can take it off a little bit. We can see how this works with our modifiers. Okay. Barely seems like we combed anything. Let's pull it back a little bit. And now, I mean, you can comb with the these hairs, right? Comb them back a little bit. You know, he likes having his hair combed. Ooh, doesn't hurt nearly as much as real life. Okay. Now again, the thing that drives me nuts are these random ones. And look at, like, this one's totally lost its mind. Like, it's not paying attention at all. Again, I've had a lot of luck in the past until this video of using the length brush tool settings, and we want to take it down. And I say -2 or something big, right? You really want to smack it. Okay, now it's working this time. So you can see those guys getting under control. That was great. All right, you might have to do that sort of all the way around. And you can do that with the edge of your brush. I don't went too far, but you get the picture, right? So much better behaved than xgen. You know, maybe there's secrets, I don't know, but I swear to you, sometimes just acts different depending on which time you're using it. So that's great that it's working this time, because we're almost done with this video and we want something to look good. All right, I'm going to do one last cool trick. So I use CC3 characters. They have a standard head. And so you'll see this thing here that I've got. I've never applied it to this guy, but let's see. I've got these things here, hair streaks, okay? And we're going to go add that. Let's look at that in Photoshop, right? The eyes of the character basically here, the mouth is here. Like, for example, this is a goatee map, right? So you can see where the hair is. And you can paint these things by hand, which is kind of cool, especially this one, all right? So this is, we're going to color his hair. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to go into our hypershade, and we're going to go find our video hair and right-click and hit Graph Network. And we've now got our video hair, and it's got an open input for base color. Okay, so let me zoom out for a second. Let me move that down here, and I'm going to go find it. All right, so here it is. I'm just going to drag it over here. Okay, now I'm going to move those two new things it brought in out. And it says out color, and we're going to stick that into base color. Now, because our melanin is kind of high, we're not going to see much of that, but watch what happens when I lower this. You can see those streaks are there, right, in various spots. And they're kind of natural looking because we have so much curling going on. Ooh, did my comb brush have too low a setting? Looks like I might have. That's weird that it kind of sticks up flat there. Or is that might be one of the clump settings or something. That's too high. So that's a setting. You know, it's not nice to have your hair come out straight from the head like that, but it doesn't. Yeah, it looks like it's doing it all around. So my guess is that's one of the clump settings. Let's go figure that out. Oh, before we go there, so you can adjust this obviously by driving in how much melanin. So he can now have some light spots, or he can have a lot of gray, or you can go in and redraw that map for some gray. You can make it red in those spots, which is not very natural. And you can tone down randomize. But I'm going to try and fix that. I hate when the roots come out hard. Is it from those two things where I was playing around with the clump? Remember, click this arrow, go to attributes. I did these things here, and maybe I just don't, because I'm really learning them today. So let's move that over. Looks like that might have been the culprit. You see now we're getting much closer to the skin where those things come out. And we did both of them. So we're going to have to go look at both of them. Here's the other clump. And let's look at the head. And yeah, that was the culprit. All right, you might want to just take this down a bit anyways. Something like there. And you can play around with that depending on what look you're going for, but that's my introduction to basically all this new cool things I learned in xgen today. I mean, I've been playing around with xgen for a while, but I never was in command of clump. And mostly the thing that I was having the most trouble understanding, let me turn this one off, was this part right here, the density, clump density. So I never would have thought to put that up at 33. Clump variance is kind of nice. So I used to just turn this down. I never got my clumps in order. They were always ugly. And then cranking up the CVs is essential. And you have to go to crazy numbers, as we saw, 55. I thought we went to 88. Did we go to 88? Okay, weird. Let's try to go to 88 again. Hit enter. That doesn't change anything. It's the only setting here. We've got to hit rebuild. So maybe we forgot to hit rebuild. All right, and that may not change much, 55 and 88 in terms of our render, but we still got, look at these terrible ones. Oh, those are garbage. So, you know, there's still something to be learned here. But let's try a render. Arnold, render. And we're on GPU, so it might happen today. It remembers the last time you rendered, so it always brings up some weird image that you forgot about. And here we are. I'm really not happy with these long, stringy single hairs. They've jumped in there from nowhere. Look at that ugly one. Things to learn. So again, you know, I would start attacking these first off with my length tool. See if I could get some of them out of there. I definitely don't want to have symmetry right now off. And then, you know, maybe go in here and look at that. Nice. It's always the ones right on the edges that are the most annoying. And when your length tool works, it's your friend. So we got a bunch under control right there. So you don't want to do it up in here, you know, watch. Well, that wasn't horrible. But yeah, I see those like some springs sticking out. But any of these that are like just not participating in the process, you go and smash with your highly set length tool, right? Remember, I set it pretty aggressively. Tool setting is -2. I've even set it at -4 before when I was just sick and tired of it. So we're, you know, cleaning them up. And that will render much more beautiful. Let's look at those guys. They're terrible. I mean, it's basically the ones on the edge that are destroying the fun for everyone. Hit B, go left, and bring your brush size down. Yeah, it's all these edge characters. Look at that. It's starting to look pretty good. There's some ugly ones. We gotta go and find them, unfortunately. Recalcitrant hairs. Not dissimilar from being in the barbershop after a cut. Just go around the head looking for the recalcitrant ones. And you pray, because xgen's famous for, you do all this work, then the next time you open it, it looks completely different. I haven't had that lately, but man, that can be a nightmare. Look at these guys, they are refusing. So just sometimes turn your head a little bit and you can get the hairs that were just refusing. So let's try another render, see if that's any better. Alright, and remember this is a camera, is kind of jamming us in the face. We can go to our outliner, we're using the perspective camera. And we can go to the attributes, and you can see there's camera settings. Focal length of 35 is pretty tight. It's almost like a fisheye. Move this to 70, right, and then zoom back out. He's got a kind of different look, right? This is your zoom lens. And now we can try Arnold render. I'm surprised, 0 crashes. Xgen's just behaving like a champ on my machine. Using Autodesk Maya 2020.3. Now that's starting to look all right. Okay. So, you know, we could go in there and we could tighten up the curls. We could change our curl modifiers to give them more like cornrows or something. But that's an introduction to clump and hairstyles that I've never been able to get a grip on. And really, all the change is happening today. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed. Bye, Katrina, darling. Here we go. Stop.